Welcome everyone to the 7th game of the World Championship match 2023. This is your host Sagar Shah and we are going to take you through this game. I say we because I have my better half Amruta Mokal sitting here. She doesn't want to be in the frame but she will give her expert advice through her voice.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, nice. Nice to hear your voice, Amruta. So the seventh game was very important because the score was at 3-3 and Nepo had the white pieces. There you can see in a very poignant mood that he was. The game started with a very firm handshake between these two players and then something quite unbelievable happened. You know what happened? Ding came under severe time pressure. Look at this. 3 seconds were left to make several moves on the clock, and he was under big time trouble. And eventually, that led to his downfall. How did that happen? And all that we will show you in the game. So let's go to the board and begin. Firstly, the game opened with 1e4 here. And Ding responded back with French e4 e6 d4 d5, and actually this was a very surprising opening choice by Ding, which he later said was inspired by his second Richard Rapport, who told him, you should go for it. And I think this match has been influenced a lot by Richard Rapport's suggestions to Ding. Knight d2 by Nepo, c5.
And we heard the last time in World Championship French was played was in 1978.
Yeah, very important news by Amruta that the last time it was played by Viktor Korchnoi against Anatoly Karpov. So it's been close to 45 years since French defense has been played at a World Championship match. Here, one of the main lines is to take on d5, but Nepo played knight f3, which is quite normal. Ding now took, knight takes, and he played his knight to f6. It was also possible to play knight to c6 here. But okay, he played knight f6 and now white took on d5. Here's an important variation, an interesting one. After e5, knight d7, the best move here for white is to play knight to f3. However, if you play the move f4, this is a big mistake. Try to pause the video and figure out why is it an error. It's black to play. Okay, I hope that you figured out that you must take on e5. That is the best move. And after fe5, you give a check here and then the knight is hanging on d4. So that's a little tactic you should be aware of, because if you don't play it that way and you play knight c6, then after n2 f3, white is clearly better in this position. Okay, so e takes d5 happened. Here he didn't push e5. Knight takes d5 and knight to f3. And Nepo said in the press conference of the game that his idea was very simple. He was not trying to refute Ding's opening. It was just, to play something simple and steady and get a very small edge. That's how he was approaching this game. And Ding now played
Ding
bishop
played bishop
e7.
e7, but a little nice variation would have been bishop b4.
Okay.
Check. And if c3, then there is interesting idea.
Oh, here there is a tactic once again. Black to play. What should black do? It's a very nice one, and actually I think you must have got it. It's to take on c3, pawn takes, bishop takes c3,
Bishop d2, bishop d4.
check, and yeah, bishop d2 is met with bishop d4 with a clear
and if
advantage.
a4 check, knight c6, that's what with it showed.
Defending this, and this is winning for black. So bishop b4 should be met with bishop d2 and it's roundabout even. But Ding went bishop e7 and then bishop c4. And now a very interesting move played by black was knight c6. Black could have castled here, white also could have castled, and then the game could have continued with b6, maybe queen e2, bishop b7, rook d1. And white has a small edge for sure because there is pressure down here. There are sacrifices possible on e6 or knight f5 possible, and it's not very easy for black to play. But knight c6, he directly attacked the center, but Nepo said after takes, I have weakened your structure here, and that's why I should be slightly better. Well, natural thought, but here's the downside for white, because black can now quickly develop the bishop and push the pawn to c5 without having to move his b pawn and waste time. So that has been helpful for him. Secondly, bishop a6 can come at many positions and exchange this strong bishop. So all in all, while this pawn is weak, it does give black good compensation, open b file, semi-open b file, and so on. Okay, so here he went castles. Black also castled. Queen e2, bishop b7, bishop came to d3 to attack this pawn on h7. I was analyzing many variations here. One interesting variation was knight b4, trying to win this bishop. And if you play bishop e4, here's the interesting move f5. And the point is, I want to win this bishop at all costs, so you have to go back. And then after knight takes d3, queen takes e6, king h8, cd3, black can go for the move c5 with very good compensation because of this bishop here. So it was playable, such lines were playable, but instead Ding went queen c7, developing the queen, queen e4, and at this point was where everyone had a different point of view. Ding went knight f6, and I think Vidit did not like it at all. He was here at our place when we were analyzing this, and he mentioned that g6 should have been preferred because the knight is well placed on d5, which is true. G6 would have been a nice move, but I think Ding did not want that the white bishop would park itself on h6 and attack the rook, so he went knight f6. But this allowed Nepo to dangerously swing his queen over, looking in this direction. Now, Ding played c5, activating his bishop down this diagonal. White played bishop to f4, attacking the queen. Queen b6, and now came the move knight to e5. Instead of knight e5, if the move bishop g5 had been played, which was very interesting because the threat is now to take on f6 and then checkmate on h7. So black is kind of forced to play h6, and then you can take, take, take. And here comes an important defensive idea, which is to play rook f d8. And you might think that after knight g5, white has a very powerful attack, but black has a very cool move, and it's your job to figure out what should black play here. The move that black should play in this position is rook takes d3. It's an important bishop. You sacrifice, you remove it out, and after cd3, this position is clearly better for black. There are many ways that black can play here. One is queen c6, the other is to play the queen to b4 and come to g4. Also possible in this position was bishop takes h7. Now you might be wondering, how is this move possible? Well, turns out that this bishop on e7 is unguarded. So after take, queen takes e7, it seems black has won a pawn, white has won a pawn, but after bishop f3, gf3, rook f e8, black is in the driver's seat. So knight e5 made a lot of sense, and now came the move rook a d8. It was an important move here, by the way, rook a d8, and it was something which was very, very important. Here's a question to you. What would happen if black just played the move a5? Yes, this is where white would have jumped in with knight d7, attacking the queen and the rook. And the point is, you can't take this knight because of queen h7 checkmate. So that's the reason why this was better. But rook f d8 was also possible instead of rook a d8. But this is not a good move. Why is it bad? White to play. Yes, the point is bishop takes h7 is possible, and after take, queen takes e7. White is better because the f7 pawn is hanging. So if we go back here and see after rook a d8, bishop takes h7 now no longer is better because after knight takes h7, queen takes e7, this position is playable for black. One of the moves could be f6, the other one can be knight f6, and the queen is somehow precariously positioned on e7 and could get trapped. Here's a variation that I was looking at: f6, and now if knight d3, then e5, bishop e3, queen c6, threatening a mate on g2, f3, and rook d5. And here it's very interesting because if you take with the knight, then rook f7 traps the queen, and if you take with the bishop, then rook e8 traps the queen. And so in this way, it's better. There was another, after rook a d8 in the game, rook a e1 was played here. But there was another possibility to play knight g4. And this was asked to Ding in the press conference whether he was ready for this move. And Ding had said that he would play the move h5 here, which is a fine move because after take, queen takes h5, g6, queen g4, rook d4, the position remains quite interesting. White should be better but playable. Instead, here there was a very strong move for black, and that was to play rook takes d3, cd, and now play the move knight d5. If you see, the bishop attacks the queen and the knight attacks the bishop. After queen g3, you continue the forcing play with h5, knight e3, h4, queen g4, you take on f4, queen f4, and h3, and black has very good compensation because of his long range bishop here. So you can just understand that because of all these complicated lines, both players were using a lot of time, especially Ding. And then after rook a e1, Ding now played the move g6. He should have played actually bishop a6 here, and I think with this he could have equalized very simply. Maybe he was afraid of the move c4, but then comes a very nice exchange sack. I can take, knight takes, and the move knight d5, attacking the queen. If you move the queen, I take on c4, and black is doing fine, especially because of this pin here. And instead, if you play bishop g5, then I play the move takes, takes, and bishop c4. Once again, black is at least equal here. So this would have been very nice to play bishop a6, but instead he played g6, bishop to g5, and now an important move here. What should black play? If you look here, there's a lot of pressure, and if you move the knight, you will lose the bishop on e7. So how do you continue? Well, black played the move, the only move here, which is rook d4, hitting the queen. And the point is that if you were to play the move f4 here, keeping up the pressure, then black has c4, attacking the bishop and also opening up this diagonal. So that's the reason why queen h3 was played. Then came queen c7 with the idea of c4, and b3 was played to stop this. Ding now finds a very nice move, knight to h5, and his idea is that he wants to trade the bishops and next go knight f4. f4 was played, and here a very clean equalizer would have been bishop takes g5. But one can clearly understand why Ding didn't want to go for this, especially because now these squares are very, very dangerous. So after knight f4, the queen moves into h6, and here is a very important move that black has to find. Try to think, what should black play? The move here is c4, and now you are attacking this, and after b takes c4, there is queen c5 attacking here, and you cannot stop it because king h1 is met with bishop g2 check, and somehow this position is fine for black, completely fine. Knight h3 and then takes here, and queen f2, black is better. But the much more challenging move now is knight g4, and after this the threat is knight f6 mate, so you must find the only move once again for black. Try to think what that move is. Yes, f5 is the move, and then after knight f6 takes, here's the variation, very nice variation by the way. Take the bishop, take on f4, take on f4, f7. You must take with the queen because king takes f7 is met with queen h7. So take here, dc2, and the position is very, very complex but equal. Okay, so in the game, bishop d6 was played, and he played the move c3. Now the rook is kind of trapped because if you go rook d5, there is bishop e4. And so here Ding found a very nice sequence. He first took on f4, then bishop f4, rook takes f4, rook takes f4, and bishop e5. And once you look at this position, let's make another move, bishop rook h4 and rook d8. You will realize that black is doing fantastically well. Why? Because firstly, he has a bishop and a pawn for a rook. Secondly, you can't take this pawn because after rook takes h7, there is rook d3. There's no check here because this bishop controls that square. And if you take, I win this material. And the thing is that in such a position, the black king is very safe, white king is not so safe, and the bishop pair is very strong. So, all in all, black cannot be better. All that Ding had to do was keep making logical moves, which is what he did. He first exchanged the bishops, then he played rook d5, good move. Rook h4, he brought his queen in.
This
Now,
was an amazing move, queen d6.
fantastic move. Because if rook h7, what's the move here that Ding had prepared? While there are many moves, the most clean move is rook d1. Because if you take queen d1 and this king is in trouble, and otherwise it's just a lot of overloading because the rook is also hanging. So queen e3 was played, and now came the move h5, which is again a fine move. g3.
Yeah, Nepo played amazingly actually. Queen e3, g3 to defend accurately was not so easy.
Yeah, and after rook c4, Nepo started putting pressure on c5, but after h4, which was a cool move played here by black, actually Ding could have just played bishop g5 and he was better, but he decided to sack a pawn, which is interesting decision. After gh4, he started thinking a lot, and this is where he lost most of his time, and I think he froze here completely, and he let his time run down, and this is where things went bad for him. But the funny thing is, this position is still clearly better for black if he plays the move bishop e5. Now
And there's
queen
a nice
f2.
idea here if rook e2 is here.
Yeah,
Then you had rook d1, first bishop h2 check,
check, take.
rook d1,
Wow.
and then rook d2 skewer.
And you lose material here. h2 is hanging. Very nice, Amrita. And so queen f2 if was played, then rook d2, check, and it is at
This
least,
was a fair result, I think.
yeah, this would have been a draw, but black can also continue clearly better with rook d3. But Ding took a lot of time, played rook d2 directly, and then rook e2 was played, and now the rooks cannot be traded because then white would be better. So Ding went to rook d3, but he just blundered here. He should have gone back here and continued the game. It is still roundabout even, but he played rook d3, and then after this he lost a pawn. I don't know what he missed in his calculation, but I think he just
Maybe he overestimated that white king will be weak, but it was defended beautifully.
Queen d3, rook f2. There's just no attack.
Yeah, if you play queen b1, the problem is simple. Rook takes f6, and you see g1 square is defended. You don't have any check with your black queen, unfortunately.
No checks here. So that was better. After king g7, rook cf4 was played, and now instead of the white king being under pressure, it's the black king. And after queen c3, I think this is where the flag fell, and there are many ways to win. Easiest is to take on c3, bishop c3, and rook f7, and white is completely winning. And with this, Nepo scored a very important win. As you can see here, Ding was quite sad after the game. He was there and he didn't know what he had just done. He was completely doing fine. He had played an opening which was risky, but it had worked out for him. But in the press conference, he was dejected. Nepo was quite upbeat. It's also a picture of Ding moving out. And well, the score now stands 4-3 in the favor of Ding. We'll see how things go. Sorry, in the favor of Nepo, 4-3. We'll see if Ding can strike back in the 8th game. For now, this is Sagar Shah signing off. Bye bye. Along with Amruta Mukal. Amruta.
Bye bye.